Whispers in the Garden. The sprawling estate of Ravenswood Manor sat perched on the edge of a misty cliff, its towering hedges and ancient oaks concealing secrets older than its granite walls. Eleanor St, Clair, the sole heir to the St. Clair fortune, returned to the manor after years abroad, driven by an aching loneliness she could not shake. At 32, her life had been filled with luxury and emptiness, a series of glittering parties, shallow romances, and the constant murmur of others' expectations. The first time she saw him, he was bent over the flower beds, his hands deep in the earth. His name was Daniel Hart, the new groundskeeper, a man hired by her estate manager without her involvement. His sun-kissed skin and wind-swept dark hair framed a face that was both rugged and gentle. She watched him from the balcony, intrigued by the care with which he pruned and tended to the roses, as if they were precious treasures. One evening, Eleanor ventured into the gardens at twilight, the golden glow of the setting sun casting long shadows across the grounds. She had always loved the gardens, especially the maze at its heart, and the way the scent of jasmine lingered in the air. She didn't expect to find Daniel there, crouched by a fountain, repairing a cracked stone cherub. "You have a talent for breathing life into things," she remarked, her voice soft but startling in the quiet. Daniel glanced up, his blue eyes catching hers. "It's the plants that breathe life into me, Miss St. Clair. I just listen to what they need." From that evening on, their paths crossed often. Eleanor found excuses to wander the gardens while Daniel worked, their conversations beginning cautiously, then blooming into a connection that surprised them both. She learned he was a man of few words but many thoughts, with a past he kept hidden. He spoke of his love for the soil, how tending to plants gave him a peace he'd never found elsewhere. But Ravenswood Manor was a place of whispers, and soon Eleanor began hearing rumors among the staff about Daniel. A story about a man with a dark past who had come to the manor seeking solitude. One housemaid claimed to have seen a scar on his back, the jagged kind that came from violence. Another insisted he'd once been a soldier, or perhaps something worse. Eleanor's curiosity deepened. Her own life had been dictated by appearances, and Daniel's enigmatic presence both fascinated and unnerved her. Yet she could not deny the pull she felt toward him. One night, a violent storm swept across the manor, and Eleanor found herself drawn to the gardens, worried about the plants she and Daniel had so often discussed. She found him there, his clothes drenched, his hands working frantically to secure the greenhouse door against the wind. "You're mad for being out here," she shouted over the roar of the storm. He turned to her, his face illuminated by a flash of lightning. "And you're here to join me." After the storm passed, they took shelter in the greenhouse, the scent of rain and soil thick in the air. It was there, amid the fragile blossoms and shattered glass, that Daniel's walls began to crack. He told her of his past, a life shaped by tragedy, betrayal, and the loss of everything he'd once held dear. Eleanor listened, her heart breaking and mending all at once. She saw in him not a man defined by his scars, but someone who had found strength in his vulnerability. As the weeks turned to months, their bond grew, but so did the challenges. Eleanor's family disapproved, warning her of the scandal such a union would bring, but she no longer cared for their expectations. One evening, as the summer sun set over Ravenswood, Daniel led Eleanor to the heart of the maze, where he had planted a single red rose. "This is yours," he said, his voice steady, "because you're the first person who's ever truly seen me." Eleanor took his hand, her fingers brushing against his calloused palm. "And you're the only one who's ever made me feel alive." In the shadow of the manor, amid the secrets of the garden, Eleanor and Daniel found a love that defied their differences, their pasts, and the expectations of the world. It was a love that, like the roses in the garden, would weather storms and bloom eternal. The end.